experience, right? And
No.
you're talking about a young person who's had 3 years of experience and got laid off from their tech marketing job and is now hanging up their own consulting shingle, right?
Hello and welcome to the Rose and Rockstar from the Rockstar CMO effing marketing podcast and the Marketing Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ian Truscott. I'm managing partner at Velocity B, a B2B sales and marketing advisory firm. It's Saturday the 4th of October, and in a moment I'll join my chum Robert Rose, Chief Troublemaker at 7th Bear, in our virtual bar, the Rose and Rockstar, where, over one of his fabulous cocktails, I'll pick his brains on a marketing topic that is top of mind for me. This week, over a dark cocktail, I asked Robert, with his years of marketing consulting experience, what he makes of this trend of fractional marketing leaders, something me and Jeff discussed a couple of weeks ago. But first, we need to pay the bar tab. I'll be back in a moment.
We'll be right back. After this word.
We'll be right back.
After this word.
Hey marketers, Deborah Eckerling here.
And I'm Keith Smith, and we host the MPN Meta Marketing Show, which is not just another marketing podcast, but the marketing podcast about all the other marketing podcasts.
Podcasts are booming, right? We love them, and people actually listen. They don't scroll, they don't swipe, well, except maybe during the ad breaks.
But here's the secret. With the Marketing Podcast Network, your ads don't make people hit skip. We put your brand on shows that people actually want to hear.
That's right. We match your message with podcasts that make marketing nerds like us perk up and take notes, or at least nod knowingly, pretending they understand.
And don't worry, because we'll deliver your ad naturally. People might even think that we love your brand personally, which of course we totally do, unless it's a veggie smoothie, then maybe not.
If you want your brand heard without making listeners roll their eyes,
head to marketingpodcasts.net and catch marketing fans at work, rest and play. Seriously, your audience is already listening. Make sure they hear your brand and not our awkward jokes.
Join the conversation, because good ads shouldn't just be tolerated, they should be enjoyed.
Yes!
Ah, Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant.
Whoa, that's refreshing.
And a 9.5 plus pH for every way you move.
I did take a Spain class today.
Restoring like a pro. Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant. For those with a taste for taste. Grab yours today.
Hello, my friend. Welcome to the bar.
Thank you very much, mate. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm just have been busy, heads down with client work. So it's been a really nice way to kick off fall here and get into October.
Nice. And but it's funny, isn't it? You've been never so busy, and the weather's getting better for you anyway. But I
am actually getting back outside again. Yeah. So I have a lovely cocktail. It reminded me of a cocktail that my parents used to drink, which I've sort of, the White Russians are very famous, right? Of course, the dude,
yes,
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But basically, if you don't add or cream to your White Russian, you have what's called a Black Russian. And my sister reminded me that my parents used to drink, and especially my mom would drink Black Russians. And so I thought, oh, that's a fun way to sort of kick off fall, because there's a little bit of fall attitude to it. And basically a Black Russian is just your favorite coffee liqueur, Kahlua being sort of, usually the one associated with it. But, Kahlua sometimes isn't the best coffee liqueur. There are better coffee liqueurs certainly out there. But Kahlua is a good one, and it's easy to find, of course. And it's a rum coffee liqueur, so of course it's going to be a little sweeter. And a little more vanilla flavored. And of course, you can swap that out for another coffee liqueur of any kind that can be not as vanilla-y or not as sweet. But then, of course, the key ingredient is vodka, right?
Yes.
So let's get to it. And so basically you're looking for something as neutral. I mean, vodka pretty much is born neutral, right? I don't even drink vodka because it's like, there's no taste to it. But So you're looking for a sort of a taste list because, of course, all the flavors are going to come out elsewhere. So it's basically just 2 parts vodka, 1 part Kahlua or your favorite coffee liqueur. And then, throw in an orange slice or a maraschino cherry. And there you go. It's basically shake them all up and pour it in over ice and away you go. And don't add any milk or cream. And so you make a white Russian, but there you go. You have your black Russian and it's all ready to roll.
Nice work, yeah. And I used to enjoy a Black Russian back in the day. I haven't had one for ages. I feel inspired, but that sounds fantastic. So anyway, I know that we've got to get you in and out of the bar pretty quick today. So because you are super busy, I wanted to ask you a question about fractional marketing leadership, because what I get the sense of is that after AI. In our little goldfish bowl, and I know that you can't really judge things from your own goldfish bowl, it seems that the word fractional is the buzzword of the year almost. And you describe yourself as a fractional leader. And I thought I'd ask you. I mean, I talked about it on the show with Jeff a couple of weeks ago, and I just wondered what advice you'd give to people looking to forge a fractional career.
Here's what I would say to that. If you had asked me this question this time last year, I would say you have to lean into the term, right? You have to lean into the idea. And what you have to do is lean into the idea of a fractional. But primarily, if you have to be focused on small and medium-sized businesses, because basically, Fortune 500, Fortune 1000, FTSE 100, FTSE 1000, those companies, they don't hire fractional people.
Right.
They hire consultants, consulting firms, or agencies, right?
Right.
And so, and let's be perfectly frank, the work is exactly the same. It is not a difference between what you do as a fractional CMO or a fractional marketing leader and what you would do if you were part of an agency or a consultancy focused on guidance and marketing. The difference is that if there is one, is that you're actually doing the work, right? You're actually, they're hiring you to come in and become a member of their teams to the point where you might dress, you might be part of their team, and et cetera, et cetera. Increasingly, and so that's how I would have answered that question last year. What I'm finding, however, it's you can almost do it without doing the fractional thing. I took it out of my LinkedIn profile, for example, only because it felt to me like I was commoditizing myself, to be honest.
Yes.
And so positioning myself rather as a independent consultant, an independent marketing consultant, that provides guidance, training, and actual work as part of your team as what I do. And call that fractional if you like, great. But what I found is that it opens up your marketing for yourself and doesn't pinhole you into that smaller and medium-sized business. Now, you may want to focus on small and medium-sized businesses. You may want to focus on startups. You may want to, in the whole crossing the chasm idea, you may want to really niche down into a specific thing, industry vertical or a business size or a particular kind of company because you have expertise in that. I tend to work mostly with technology and media companies, for example, because I know that world the best.
Yeah.
And so, but that doesn't mean, I also work with law firms and I work with consulting firms and I also work with manufacturers and I also work, I work across a lot of industries. I tend to get hired a lot by technology companies and media companies only because those are worlds that I really, really know. And so it's a long way of basically saying, I think as we approach 2026 and the end of 2025, there is a differentiation that you can start to take when you start, because the function is absolutely a growing function. Basically, independent, small, individual or small agencies that are getting hired to become of a team, either temporarily or in a quote unquote fractional way, is there. I don't know that the term is going to survive.
Do you know, that's really interesting because I haven't. That's what I'd been thinking about, and I hadn't really seen anything to reflect that. Was what I was wondering was whether the fractional term was more of a sell side term in people describing themselves as fractional, rather than a buy side term in that people were looking for fractionals. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that people want to get a particular job done from a experienced consultant and advisor. Are they calling it fractional?
Yeah, and I think it's a great point, right? Which is it is very much a sell side term. It's also, I always found it, and the reason I never resonated with it is because I always found it to be a little self-important, right? In other words, I'm positioning myself as a fractional CMO, and so basically what it means is that I'm worthy of being a CMO, and you can buy some of my time. And it's like, to me, that felt a little like, it felt a little bit like an oxymoron, right? To me, and like, if you're truly going to be a CMO, then you kind of need to have all, up to your neck in the business, right? And so when I think about the job to be done, if there is a need for a fractional CMO, and I'm being very specific here for a reason, if there's a need, whether it's in a startup or a mid-sized company, if there's a need for a quote unquote fractional CMO, what the need is, the job to be done, if you think about it, is really that they need someone either in an interim way to actually offer leadership, or they need someone to do marketing leadership type things because they're existing, like a startup, for example, where the be engineers or the founders maybe, financial people or don't know a lot about marketing, so they need an expert to come in and help them. They don't need someone in marketing full time, right? In other words, they don't need someone. They don't want to pay for someone to be here all the time. They just need some help, right? And from an expert. And to me, that's a very different job to be done, right? In other words, if I'm going in as an interim because they don't need that. They don't want to invest in that level of marketing at that point, then what they need is an agency or a consultant, right? That's what they need, right? They need someone who's going to think about their stuff part-time and help them course correct and act like a personal coach, right? A sort of coach, as it were. If they need someone full-time in an interim position, then they need a full-time agency or a full-time consultant. They don't need someone fractional. And so the term is all rubbed me the wrong way. And so what I'm finding, however, is that just not saying the word, but actually talking about the function of what people need, whether it's guidance for their team, training for their team, or full on just work, for many of my clients, I'm writing web copy. I'm updating their WordPress site. I'm doing things that a CMO wouldn't do, but I am actually acting as their fractional marketing leader, their part-time marketing. And all I'm doing is basically bringing in some quote unquote adult supervision, whatever wisdom, whatever experience I can bring to the table to fill the holes that they need filled. And to me, that's just marketing consulting. Which I think is an absolutely needed thing. I 100% believe I wouldn't do it if I didn't. And I think it's increasingly important as we start hiring people instead of firms, right? Agencies, et cetera, and you trusting in people to bring you that value, et cetera. So that's where I think the opportunity really is in 2025 as we go into 2026.
That's really interesting because I think this shift away from working with large agencies and stuff and towards the independence is an interesting point you're making there. And one would expect that to be the case with small to medium-sized enterprises, but you're saying just there that actually the big businesses are making that change as well.
Yeah, and I think of course, because it's we've gone 15 minutes without mentioning the word, we have to bring in AI into this. I think when you talk about too much, in fact, has been made about how AI is going to disrupt the world of consulting and agency services. And, you can't go a week without hearing about how McKinsey's going to be completely upended, and and all the agencies are now going AI first and all that stuff, which is true. There's no doubt that it's disrupting things, but what it does is that it actually puts much more of an emphasis, because the AI is really about an individual getting it. That's right. I'm not saying that the right way, but you'll get what I mean when I finish, which is, because it's an individual idea, it makes much more sense to hire a person that is proficient with AI to help me with my marketing strategy and do things at a more inexpensive or efficient way than it does an agency, right? In other words, why am I hiring an agency to be effective with AI? Why am I not just hiring the person in the agency to be effective with AI? That's the difference. And I think that will be the disruption. It won't be that. Anyway.
Yeah. And I also like your point there that you're making that, if you're making this transition, positioning yourself as fractional, you need to be aware that may actually restrict what your offer is to the world, right? Because I think that then the outcome that you're selling is that you're going to be a part-time marketing leader. I know there's a lot of fuss about whether you should call it part-time or not, but you're not then positioning sort of work packages and outcomes assessments, that kind of stuff, right? Which you might do if you were positioning yourself as a marketing consultant.
What I'm trying to do is differentiate, right? I mean, when to be blunt about it, right? I don't want to look like all of the, and unfortunately what has happened is, because of the sort of hyper trendiness of the term, you've gotten, it's almost a joke now, where you see fractional CMO, and what you're looking at is someone with 2 years of marketing experience in a business somewhere that has decided to hang up their own shingle, right? You're not talking about someone who has old CMO experience, right?
No.
You're talking about a young person who's had 3 years of experience and got laid off from their tech marketing job and is now hanging up their own consulting shingle, right? It's almost becoming a cliched word, and so that's honestly the reason I took it out of my title.
I shouldn't have. I introduced this topic as saying you describe yourself, but that's out of date. I said you describe yourself as fractional, but you don't anymore. So that was out of date. So that was pretty poor. So so wise words there, my friend. And where will we get the very most up to date information about Robert Rose when we go online?
Yeah, you can find it on my company site, which is seventhbear.com, or you can get it on my personal site, which is robertrose.net.
Nice. And when we spin the dial on the interwebs, where are we going to find you then?
You'll find me basically on LinkedIn for the most part. Although I'm back on Facebook.
Oh yeah. I saw that.
But that's all for like friend and stuff like that. I'm celebrating the fact that I'm back on Facebook, which is just odd and weird. But okay, there you go. All right.
But that was a new account, was it? You blocked out your old one?
It's a new account, yes, because I got locked out. I have a whole post that I want to write about this and helpful safety checks, but yeah.
All right, mate. Well, I know you got to get on with making the donuts, but will I see you in the bar next week?
You will indeed.
I look forward to it, man. And good luck and enjoy the rest of your week.
Yes, you too.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you, Robert. Really good insight from someone who's actually doing the work. So maybe folks jumping on this fractional wave need to be a bit cautious and understand what the people who hire them are actually looking for. So that's a wrap on our visit to the Rose and Rockstar. Thank you for putting a dime into your podcasting jukebox, selecting our track and jiving along with us. And of course, you can find all the links to me and Robert in the show notes on rockstarcmo.com, where you can also find links to our newsletter, blog, previous episodes, and all the things. Coming up on Wednesday, Jeff is back for a chat about buyers' journeys. And as you heard, Robert will be back in the bar on Saturday. In the meantime, I'll leave you with this quote from Philip Kotler that I love. The aim of marketing is to reduce the need for selling.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Hennika Watkins-Porter hosts The Entrepreneurial You, empowering entrepreneurs with insights on leadership, business, and success. Hennika, tell listeners what to expect from your show.
So we provide innovative business strategies and practical solutions to common entrepreneurial challenges.
And where can people subscribe?
Find us at hennikawatkisporter.com, as well as the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net, or search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.